Welcome to the How Do I Lab. I'm here with Bob, our expert tradesman, and we'll be installing a glueless hardwood floor. In our lab, we'll take a look at the first 3 steps of our How Do I system: safety, tools, and of course our product. So Bob, what do we have to consider for safety?
Well, first of all, we want to make sure we have a welded area.
Okay.
And we are going to be using a power tool, so we want to have eye protection. And sometimes people are also sensitive to the sound of a power saw, so you might consider an earplug or something of that sort. And be careful.
Okay. Just be aware, I guess, in your work environment. So.
Right.
All right, let's move on to our tools. What do we have for tools?
Okay, well, first of all, we're going to be using a power saw.
Okay.
And what's important here also is that we need a carbide tipped blade.
Got it.
Knee pads are very essential because you're going to be on your knees for an extended period of time. This is a lifesaver.
Okay.
They come in various qualities, and if you're only going to use them once, you might get a cheaper pair. If you're going to use them for more than a few times, indulge yourself.
Yes, exactly. Don't mess up your knees.
Our hammer, pencil, tape measure, utility knife, 4 penny nails for installation of trim and other pieces that are not part of our planking, wood fill. Every manufacturer will have a wood fill colored to match the particular type of planking that you're using, and I would recommend using that. A pull bar. This we'll get into that later when our installation, but this is a tool that you probably will not need at any other time, but for this installation.
Okay.
But it is worth the expense. This is a tapping block. Spacers. Now these spacers are designed for 1/4 inch spaces, 1/16 and 3/16, so that if you want a 1/4 inch, you put 2 together, top and bottom. Our miter box for corner trim installation, and a straight edge is good for our purposes that we're using. We're going to be installing in a rather confined space, so this 4-foot level will serve us as a straight edge to determine the levelness of our surface. If you have a larger surface, which most people will be doing, a piece of string and a nail to be used to fulfill the same function as our level will. This is about finding low spots in our floor.
Okay, got it.
And I think that does it for our tools.
That's it for our tools.
I'm sorry, here's a nail set for setting any nails for our 1/4 round pieces or other trim.
Okay. All right, let's talk about our product here, Bob. What do we got?
Okay, first of all, the most obvious, this is one piece of our hardwood glueless planking, and one thing to keep in mind is that before installation you want to open up your packages and put them into the room that you're going to be using them in, and let them breathe or acclimate into the climate of that room for at least 48 hours.
Okay, wow.
That allows for expansion and contraction according to the temperature of your room. This is the instructions for our laminate, and it's always a good idea to refer to those periodically. Make sure you're doing everything just right.
Okay.
For our trim pieces, this is called a reducer, and we're going to be showing how this works. This goes from a higher surface such as carpeting or tile to our laminate. This is a stair nosing for any kind of stair installation that you may be doing. This is another piece of stair nosing. And this is a track to affix our reducing pieces we nail, screw, or glue this piece down to our subfloor, and then we affix our reducers to that track. This is a very basic piece. In this case, we have a 2-in-1 foam underlayment. If you are putting your floor onto a cement subfloor, it is essential that you use a poly plastic underlayment first for as a moisture barrier, and then you roll your foam underlayment on top of that. In this case, this is a 2-in-1 foam underlayment, and once again, as always, follow the manufacturer's recommendations. We are going to use the 2-in-1 for our installation. And oh, here's one more. This is also an essential piece. This is a quarter round because we need to lay our flooring with a 1/4-inch gap all around our perimeter and at any spot that is going to abut, say, a cabinet, a door, a pipe. We need a 1/4-inch expansion gap, and around our walls we will affix this quarter round to close that gap.
All right, got all of our pieces covered. We'll be taking everything down and heading down to our job site and starting to put in our floor.
Let's go.
Hi, welcome to our job site. We're going to be installing our flooring in this nice little area at the top of the stairs right here. And let's see, what did we do to prep this area? Because I know we need to make sure we have a clean area to work in.
Right.
And what's necessary here.
So first of all, make sure that there's no protrusions on the floor. Pick up any nails, extra protrusions. This is a carpet strip here that we want to make sure we get up and clean. Once we're finished, we want to make sure we sweep it up really nicely. Maybe a shop vac would be a good tool to have to finish off our cleanup, and then we're going to make sure that our floor is level. Okay. And we'll tell you how to do that.
All right, so we're working with a concrete floor here. That's pretty normal for putting down this floor.
Right. But concrete floor is a little bit of a different problem. If you're on a bottom floor with the concrete floor is going to create some moisture, and we need a moisture barrier on the concrete floor on the first floor. Since we're on the second floor here, we don't have to worry about that. Okay, we've laid out our underlayment piece. Now I'm going to make our cut on the edge of our step. So I cut out another piece the same length as my first, and because our second piece is quite a bit narrower than our first, I'm going to now cut out that piece out of quite a bit larger piece. So we're going to lay our planks with our light source, and because the length of our surface is less than 2 plank lengths, we will have to make quite a few cuts. Basically, the rule of thumb is to stagger your planks every 3rd plank. Let me demonstrate our first interlocking plank. Simply tilt the groove towards the tongue, or vice versa, and snap down. So we've measured out our floor, and we're going to make a number of cuts. We've made a few cuts, and now we're ready for our installation. For our first couple rows, it's a good idea to bring the planks away from the wall so that I can kneel on the first plank to snap down. To get rid of this gap, we take our tapping block, place it on the end. For the installation of our final few pieces, including the ones around our door jamb, we're going to want to cut the bottom of our door jamb. And in order to do that, first thing we want to do is make a mark using one of our planks turned upside down as a template. Now I want to mark my final piece. I'm going to need to make a cut here and here. Okay, we've made our cut. We're ready for our final piece. Tap this in like so. Our next step is going to involve taking care of a stair. For our purposes, we have carpeted steps, but we are going to wrap around our wood onto our top riser. So we will need a long piece, and because our planking doesn't quite cover our stair riser, we're going to need a short piece also, which we will cut to size both width and length to accommodate the height of our riser. And then we're going to affix our nosing between the top of our floor and our riser with our track nailed, screwed, or glued down to our floor, our subfloor, and then snap our nosing into place into our track. For security purposes, we want to make sure that we affix our nosing also with a metal fastener, either a nail or a screw, 6 or 8 inches apart, approximately 2 inches from the edge of our nosing for double strength. Set our nail or screw holes and wipe in some coordinating putty to fill the holes. Now we have determined that the riser height is 6 1/4 inches. So I've made my mark at 6 1/4, and I've made it on the back of my plank so that the line shows up a little bit better. A pencil line on a laminate doesn't show up quite as strongly as you would like it to. So we're ready to cut. Next step is to affix adhesive to the back of our riser plank. Just make sure you have an adhesive that will accommodate laminate flooring. We'd like to make sure that the entire surface is buttered up very nicely. Put the bottom end in first, press up to the top, wipe off any excess adhesive. So we've secured our track down to our subfloor, and the next thing we're going to do is snap our nosing into our track. When we do that, we want to go one end in first, and it's snapped into place. Because these strips only come in standard lengths, we needed to splice a piece of nosing together, and I like to cut them on a 30-degree angle. If there happens to be any gaps that are left over, we can fill those with our coordinated color putty. Finally, we're going to secure our nosing down with a metal fastener, either a nail or a screw, making sure that we first drill a pilot hole through our laminate to accept our nail or our screw, setting a nail and or a screw down below the surface, and then filling our hole with the coordinated color putty to whichever our floor happens to be. Our next step is to secure a track at our transition area between our flooring and, in our case, carpeting. Typically with carpeting, you're going to use a transition piece where the carpet abuts the transition piece. For our purposes, because our carpeting is somewhat higher than our floor, we're going to use a reducing transition piece. First step is to secure down our track like we did with our nosing. Then we're going to take our piece, slide it under our doorstop, work our way from one side to the next, and snap it into place. Our final step to close the expansion gaps is to apply a cord around. First thing we want to do is remove our spacers. Take our measurement and go cut. Finally, we're going to affix our quarter round to our wall, not to our floor surface, to allow for expansion of the floor. As a final touch, I like to cut a small end cap to affix to our quarter round, but you may also simply choose to make a straight cut across or cut twice to give a nice finished touch to your end. If you choose to make an end cap like this, I would both glue and nail my piece. So now we're going to affix our quarter round to our wall. Again, to our wall, not to our floor surface, to allow for expansion. And fill all our holes with the coordinating colored putty. And we're ready to go.
All right, so we finished installing our floor here. We have a nice section right here at our landing. It looks beautiful. And how do people maintain this in order to make sure it stays nice and pretty?
Well, that's a great question, Deanna. That's the beauty of this floor, because all it takes is the wiping with a damp sponge or a mop. You really want to be careful not to use too much water on this surface.
Okay, just something damp and then just wipe it right out.
Correct.
All right, sounds good. We'll maintain our floor nice and beautiful. And that's how you install glueless hardwood floors. Thanks, Bob.